Hi everyone, welcome back to Falcon's House. After a break to focus on projector content, which there will be plenty more of, since those have get more views and more people have commented that this content is less exciting, but I do want to finish the show. There's a few more projector settings that I'm going to go through in the future, and then I'm probably going to have to focus on television and running, because I don't really have more projector content lined up. I mean, I'll show trailers and games and things, but there's not much more in the settings I can do unless this channel starts making me a whole bunch of money and then I can get an HD Fury linker. And also, I would potentially want to upgrade to a 5050 from Epson that's supposed to come out in April, but we're not sure. They haven't really announced it yet, but it's supposed to fix the new 18 gigabit per second thing. Anyway, back to this thing. This is another Lost watch vlog, and I'm using Wikipedia once again for the recap pieces, and then I'm filling in my own commentary. This episode takes a time shift back to the 70s, following the events of this place's death. A time jump briefly takes the remaining group of survivors, Sawyer, Juliet, Miles, Daniel Faraday, and Jin, to a time when there is an ancient statue standing on the island, which the remnants have been seen on the current island, but this time it's still fully constructed. They're only to see the back of it before Locke takes the wheel and turns it and brings the survivors forward to 1974, at the peak of the Dharma Initiative's presence on the island. Now that John has pushed the wheel, the time jumps have stopped, and they are stuck in the past. The group comes across a pair of Dharma Initiative members who have been captured by two of the island's native inhabitants, the others. Juliet and Sawyer have killed the others and free Amy, but her husband Paul has been killed. The group returns to the barracks where Amy resides. However, she tricks them into walking through the sonic fence that surrounds the barracks, knocking them unconscious. Sawyer wakes up and is confronted by Horace Godspeed, the leader of the Dharma Initiative on the island. Sawyer tells him that his name is James LaFleur, and that he and the other survivors were part of a shipwreck on the island, and they are still looking for the other members of their crew. Horace tells him they will have to leave the next day on the submarine because they are not Dharma material. Meanwhile, Daniel sees Charlotte as a young girl, but decides to not say anything to her. That night, the spokesman of the others, Richard, enters the barracks to determine why his treaty with Dharma was broken. Sawyer convinces Alpert not to attack Dharma, because he is the one who killed the others. Alpert is further convinced when Sawyer shares his knowledge of events that transpired in 1954 in the episode Jughead. Because Sawyer has successfully defused the situation, Horace allows the group to stay for 2 weeks to look for the other crew members of the ship, when really they are waiting for Locke to return with the other survivors who left the island. 3 years later, the survivors have joined Dharma and are living in the barracks. Sawyer is well-respected head of security, while Jin, who is now fluent in English, continues to search for those who left the island. Amy is pregnant with Horace's baby and is due to give birth in 2 weeks. Following an argument between them, Horace gets drunk and hurls a stick of dynamite at a tree, and Amy goes into early labor. Juliet successfully delivers the baby, the first baby that survived in all of her time on the island. So it sounds like whatever causes the babies to not be able to be born on the island happens sometime between now and the current time frame. Horace believes that Amy is not yet over her deceased husband. However, Sawyer reassures him by stating 3 years is enough time to get over someone, referring to his relationship with Kate. Sawyer returns to his home, where he lives with Juliet, with whom he now is in a relationship. The next morning, he receives a call from Jin, who has found Kate, Jack, and Hurley in the jungle. Sawyer secretly meets them far from the barracks, where they are reunited. This episode is really good, and this new time frame, it seems like it'll provide a lot of history about the island and how the Dharma stations were set up And it's probably going to, because we know we can't really change the future, it's probably going to set up a whole bunch of new things that helps can set up everything that happened to them in the future. They're effectively changing what happens on the island to be the island that they knew. In the next episode, it begins with the crash of Ajira Airways Flight 316, piloted by Frank Lapidus, onto the small island off the coast of the main island where Dharma Initiative had built the Hydra station. Lapidus crash lands the plane on the runway that was built by the native population of the island and survivors of Flight 815. While the passengers begin to debate what to do next, the crash survivor and former leader of the others, Ben, begins to travel to the main island. He is followed by Sun, who believes Jin is on the main island, and later Frank. After reaching a group of canoes, Sun knocks Ben out with an oar. When we saw him in the Hydra station, he was unconscious with Locke. I think that's why. Sorry. Okay. And travels with Frank to the abandoned barracks of the Dharma Initiative. Waiting there is Christian Shepard, who shows Sun and Frank a picture of the new recruits from the Dharma Initiative in 1977, including Jack, Kate, and Hurley. He also tells her that Jin is with them in 1977. It is interesting that more people are able to see Christian now. It's not just Jack or Claire. So it seems to be that he is branching out and is able to communicate with whoever he wants to communicate with. In 1977, following the events of the previous episode, LaFleur, Sawyer explains to Jack, Kate, and Hurley the situation regarding Dharma and the time shift. Sawyer arranges for the three of them to join the Dharma Initiative as new recruits. Jack is assigned janitorial work, Hurley is a chef, and Kate works in the motor pool, with help from Juliet, who forges the necessary documentation for them to join. Juliet also learns that Amy has named her baby Ethan, who we find out eventually joins the others. Meanwhile, Jin travels to the Dharma Initiative flame station because he believes that its occupant, Brzezinski, will know if Flight 316 crashes on the island. There is no evidence of a plane crashing on the island, as the plane is in 2007. Soon an alarm is set off, and Jin finds Saeed wandering in the jungle. After a brief moment of reunion, Jin is forced to act as if Saeed were hostile to placate Brzezinski, who would not understand where Saeed really came from. Sawyer is summoned to the flame and moves Saeed to a jail cell at the barracks while he decides what to do. It's really nice that they're now all here, but Saeed's kind of in a tough spot. Later in the evening, Jack visits Sawyer and Juliet's house to discuss the situation. James tells Jack that he is in charge and has a different approach to leadership than Jack had with the survivors of Oceanic 815. Sawyer prefers to carefully plan out his actions as opposed to Jack's more impulsive style of command. Meanwhile, at the jail, an adolescent brings Saeed, a sandwich, introduces himself as Ben. Since the rules of time travel don't really allow the future to be changed, I assume Ben's personality will be shaped with his encounters with the people from the future. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe and share with other Lost fans.